Damn, they don't make shows like Hey Arnold anymore. For anybody that grew up in the late 90s and early 2000s, Hey Arnold holds a very special place in your heart. For me, these ghetto parables really help the way that I maneuver through the world and help me understand the world around me. And I do use the term ghetto parables purposely because Hey Arnold is a ghetto-ass show. The reason why it's so special to me is because it looked like the neighborhoods that I grew up in. Arnold and his friends and his neighbors around him are not upscale, upper-class people. They're mostly low-income and immigrants. And for most people that grew up in a big city, you know these neighborhoods. You've seen these people. You've experienced all of this. Nickelodeon was really ahead of the curve in terms of diversity in the 90s. Hey Arnold being a prime example of it. It wasn't diversity for diversity's sake. They just told stories that featured diverse groups of people. And it wasn't retroactive diversity, it was diversity from the get-go. Typically, big cities are diverse areas, right? You have immigrants coming from all over the place, right? You get on the bus and you see different groups of people from different backgrounds all commuting in the same way. And in that sense, Hey Arnold serves as a nuanced reflection of low-income and diverse city youth. It provides a candid portrayal of the challenges and experiences of children and adults growing up in the inner city. And no matter where you were from, you could relate to the characters in Hey Arnold. But for me, being from an inner city, I could relate even more personally. The fictional Hillwood city where Hey Arnold is set is an amalgamation of several major American cities, characterized by its urban architecture, diverse population, and vibrant street culture. The cityscape features tenement buildings and bustling streets and local markets and community spaces such as parks and stoops where people gather around and just hang out. This environment mirrors the reality of many inner city neighborhoods where public spaces become significant parts of daily life. The show's creators paid close attention to the details of urban living, from graffiti-covered walls to the sound of traffic and street vendors, providing an authentic backdrop that resonates with viewers familiar with these settings. The show's protagonist, Arnold, is a fourth grader who lives in his grandparents' boarding house. This unconventional family structure highlights the diverse, familiar arrangements common in low-income communities in the inner city, where extended families often play crucial roles in child rearing due to the economic constraints. This is different for a protagonist, especially in the 90s. Instead of having a middle class or upper middle class main character, we have a pretty much poor character living with his grandparents in a house full of people that don't really have any money at all. And yet they all feel like a family, and in many cases feel like a fucked up family just like the rest of us have. Arnold's friends also come from varied backgrounds, each reflecting different aspects of the inner city life. For instance, Helga Pataki is often seen as a tough and abrasive bully, but comes from a dysfunctional family and neglectful parents. Her character showcases the emotional and psychological struggles that many children face. On the flip side, they have characters like Arnold's best friend Gerald, who is a black character and the only major black character in the entire series. Now, just from looking at him, he seems like a 90s black stereotype, the high top fade, the sports jersey, and yet he's a beacon of wisdom for the friend group.
Gerald is the keeper of the tale. Take it away, Gerald.
Often portrayed as a leader and a trustworthy figure. And even more groundbreaking than that, they show him with two parents that are loving and present. Overall, he has a very happy family life, which wasn't really the norm for black characters in the 90s. I mean, everybody from Sid to Stinky to Harold had their own stories and backgrounds, portraying a spectrum of experiences from financial difficulties to cultural diversity. I mean, each character, from the main characters to the side characters, are giving depth and nuance, allowing the viewer to latch on and find little bits of themselves in different people in the show. The show emphasizes both their struggles and their triumphs. And more importantly, the show never talks down to its audience. I mean, obviously the show was made for children, but children are often more astute and aware than even adults. The reason being is because they're experiencing a lot of these things for the first time, so they're more alert and aware when a lot of things are happening around them that we don't even realize because we're so numb to everyday life. I mentioned both Helga and Gerald before, and again, an amazing thing is they show a black character that doesn't come from a broken home. However, it also goes on to show that two-parent households are not necessarily built the same. Helga comes from a very absent parent household, and you can see how it affects her in everyday life. But in not talking down to children, it allows for age-appropriate but still poignant real-life situations. For instance, Helga's mother is very clearly an alcoholic. Although they never show her drinking alcohol, they constantly show her drinking smoothies and being ditzy and slurring her words and falling asleep in random places. This is not something that you would see in children's shows back then or today. Even though it's a little bit more subvert and kids may not realize what this means until they get older, this is a great example of them showing a reality that many kids do actually face. The show never shied away from showing a realistic and diverse world, even the ugly sides of it. In one episode, the girls are jealous of the new student Lila because she's so perfect and prissy and makes everything seem so nice and all the guys like her. But after spending an entire episode bullying her, they come to realize that she lives in extreme poverty, which not only teaches the characters a lesson, but it also allows the audience to see a reality that they may not have access to. And these moments weren't just limited to Arnold and his friends. Within Arnold's boarding house, you had very diverse characters that came from very diverse backgrounds, but also had their own struggles. Like Mr. Kokoschka's gambling addiction and then always having friction with his wife and her leaving him constantly and him having to beg her to come back. You also have heavy subjects like Mr. Wynn in Arnold's Christmas losing contact with his daughter during the war, which looking back is a pretty heavy subject matter for its target audience, but it's presented in a way that's digestible for everybody. They even attack issues of addiction with Chocolate Boy's addiction to chocolate, but somehow they did all of this while still catering to kids. You had episodes where kids were just being kids and moments where their imagination can flourish and grow. I don't think there's ever been a more colorful cast of characters for a children's show. Like I said before, even the side characters have major character development that you wouldn't even see in main characters for many children's shows. You have characters like Stoop Kid, who literally lived his life on a stoop and was deathly afraid to leave, or Pigeon Man, who everyone was afraid of and looked down on, but it turns out he was just a homeless man who really liked pigeons and took care of them on a rooftop. It allowed people's real characters to grow and allowed kids to learn from it. These diverse groups of people would only be seen in an inner city. You'd be hard pressed to find these diverse groups in more affluent and homogenized neighborhoods. I mean, this show just embraced diversity, both in its cast of characters and subject matter. PS 118, Arnold's fictional school, was a melting pot of students from different socioeconomic backgrounds. You had wealthy kids like Rhonda and middle-class kids like Phoebe. You had poor kids like Lila and somehow a southern character like Stinky. Hey Arnold recognized that children were perceptive and capable of understanding complex societal issues. The show's creator, Craig Bartlett, believed that children deserved quality content that didn't talk down to them. And this philosophy was evident in the show's willingness to present the grittier aspects of urban life and have emotional depth with each of their characters. The series respected its audience's intelligence, portraying children who navigated the same complexities and challenges as adults, because a lot of times children are around when adults are going through these hard things. Not to mention that children have their own struggles that they too are going through. And there's no better way to show this than showing it through the lens of an inner city. Here's the thing, the majority of people in America live in big cities, which means kids will relate to this a lot more because they're experiencing it. And for those who didn't grow up in big cities, you can empathize with it because of the emotional, intelligent way that they presented the stories that they're telling. They never excluded any group of people, but they made all of their stories relatable. Whether it's Harold when he was struggling with weight issues, or Phoebe when she was being worked too hard and had a nervous breakdown, or Helga's sibling rivalry with her perfect sister. It respected every character and presented them as human beings, whether they were an immigrant, a black character, a poor character, a rich character, or anything in between. With each of these ghetto parables that were being told, I feel like I not only became more emotionally intelligent, but empathized more with everybody around me. Yes, the show was fun. Yes, it was entertaining, but it also held weight that most kids' shows don't. Of course, kids need escapism, which this show most definitely was, but it's also important to give them something that's grounded in reality and help them understand the world around them. Hey Arnold did that, and I personally am forever grateful to this show and how it helped raise me.